This podcast is sponsored by the fabulous Tuk Tuk UK, the UK's largest importer of tuk-tuks. If you want a tuk-tuk or anything tuk-tuk related, Tuk Tuk UK is the company to speak to. They love talking tuk-tuks as much as I do. You're listening to stories of discovery and adventure from Adventures in a Tuk-Tuk. Hello and welcome to another story of discovery and adventure. Today my guest is Markus Mayer. Markus is a social media manager, blogger and adventurer. Over the last 13 years he has travelled over 27,000 kilometres, mainly on Vespas and tuk-tuks on 3 continents. He's lived and worked in 5 countries and has travelled to more than 50 countries. He holds the unofficial world record for travelling around the world in 80 days on a Vespa, and earlier this year he drove his 50cc Piaggio Ape Tuk Tuk from the Algarve in Portugal to Munich in Germany in just 21 days. He loves coffee, sushi and sunsets. Let's meet the man himself, Markus Mayer.
Hi there, how are you doing?
All right, you're almost famous now, aren't you, for going very slow?
Yeah, I'm usually I was going very fast, but this time I decided to do it the other way around.
It was I followed you from the beginning. It was an extraordinary event. I know. It was good. I just thought I'd tell you that at the beginning.
I totally loved it. It was not planned at all like that. I was basically just improvising because I didn't have time to really prepare the tuk-tuk. I didn't really have time to prepare any of the trip properly because it was just a spontaneous idea to do it like that.
After your trip around the world in 80 days, you went to Portugal and the Algarve, didn't you? And that's where the Ape came from.
Exactly. I actually bought that tuk-tuk after I arrived in Portugal. I was received by the Vespa Club Algarve, and I asked the guys if they would know if I can get in Portugal, and in Spain they call it motocarro. If I can get a motocarro, like a tuk-tuk there, to move around, to go shopping, to do my laundry and things, because I had a big truck and I had my Vespa, and both were not suitable to do like transportation of stuff in the city limits.
Yeah.
Because with one I couldn't find a parking, and with the other one I couldn't carry anything. So I said a tuk-tuk would be perfect. And one of the guys says, "Oh yeah, my neighbor said something. He wants to sell one. He said like $100 or something." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Where is he at the moment?" And he said, "He's probably just getting wasted in a bar. Let's go there directly."
And that's quite a usual thing in the Algarve, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. They sit there, drink a lot of wine, and have a good time. Exactly.
Portuguese wine is delicious. Portuguese coffee is some of the best in the world, I think.
It is absolutely. I enjoyed living there a lot. I was living there nearly 3 months in my van. Okay. It was a beautiful time, and I was living on the grounds of a friend.
Yep. And
then we got the tuk-tuk on his grounds, and I left back to Germany after 3 months. Basically left the tuk-tuk untouched because I couldn't get around to clean it up, to make it get it running, because it was not running at that time. It was forgotten 15 years in a campground of a farmer, and nobody touched it. So the last insurance paid, there was a little ticket in the tuk-tuk in the window that said last time insurance was paid 2005. So since that moment, it was forgotten on that farm.
Did it take much to get it going?
I had to take out the tank, the carburetor, clean everything up, put a new spark plug. There was a short circuit somewhere in the system. I let a mechanic. There was a mechanic at 2 kilometers from the campground. I let him look for it because electrics is just not my topic. I absolutely detest electrics.
So I said he should
look for that. Yes. It's a bit special because the Italians had all the circuits not on exactly the other way around. You would usually find it in a car. So if you wire it like a normal car, it will not work, actually.
It sounds about normal. It sounds normal for an Ape, I think, or anything, just...
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously, a car is wired wrong. That's what I would say. and an Ape is wired correctly.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy how they did the whole electrics thing. It's way too many cables for that small vehicle, because basically the Ape 50 is nothing else than a 3-wheeled Vespa PK50. The motor is exactly the same. There's not anything else than just the blinkers, and the backlight is double. The only thing that's different. Otherwise, there's the same amount of lights, the same amount of everything. So there was no need to do the wiring different than on the Vespa, but for some reason they did.
Oh, that's just some mad Italian.
Exactly.
That's what. So you went back to Germany. Was that what you wanted to do, or did you have to do that? Or?
No, it was. I fell in love with a German woman. In the end, it did not work out, but I tried to live in Germany again for 4 months, and then I decided to do some more studies. Now I've been in Germany for 1.5 years again, doing some certificates for social media, for marketing, upgrading a bit my CV.
Yep.
And then my friend from Portugal called me and said, "Look, I got a problem. My wife got a stroke. So I have to go to Germany. We can't stay in Portugal, and I have no idea when I will be able to go back to my grounds there, to my house. So everything is open there. Somebody could steal it, or it just could be locked away for years if you don't come and get it."
Okay.
So I jumped into the next plane. Yeah, I jumped into the next plane to get it back. I took it on a campground that was like on a campsite, official campsite, about 3 kilometers away. So I cleaned up the carburetor so it was at least working. With a big cloud of white smoke, I drove these 3 kilometers to the campsite, and I told the lady who owned the campsite, Coco, a French lady, I told her I will come back in 3 weeks. I pick it up in 3 weeks. And she was probably not even believing that I come back ever. And we agreed on a price for the parking. And I flew back to Germany. I had 4 days to prepare that, to clean it up, to bring it to the campsite and fly back. Then I had to give a travel presentation in a museum in Germany. And 2 weeks later, I flew back to Portugal again to pick it up and drive it home. So I did not have time to prepare anything properly. Basically, the whole thing was improvised within 10 days or something.
Some of the best adventures that's the way to start them, isn't it? Not a lot of planning, and you just do not know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yes. So the route north through Portugal, sort of hugging the coast, was that planned?
Yeah, I actually had the idea that I want to see the whole coastline, the Atlantic coast of Portugal and Spain, because I didn't know that area very well. Everything above Porto was unknown to me. I've been living in Lisbon for a while. I have been once traveling on a Vespa along the coast there a bit. But everything above Porto was basically new to me, and I wanted to see it because everybody told me that it's breathtakingly beautiful. And I knew the rest of the peninsula. I knew the whole side on the Barcelona side, Valencia. I knew the whole coastline of Spain. But this northern part of Spain was completely new for me. Okay. And so I said I want to travel as far as possible along the coastline of the Atlantic into France, and then at some point just land inwards towards Germany.
Did you go across the Pyrenees?
No. That was the point. I also wanted to follow the coastline to avoid as many mountains as possible, because I left the tuk-tuk basically in original condition. So no tuning, no power kit or anything put there. I had some with me. I had actually a complete cylinder kit and everything with me to have 115 instead of 50 cc. So to double the horsepower, to double the output of power, in case I would have to go over mountains or in case something breaks. But 50
cc's is not a lot to go over the Tourmalet, is it?
No, basically everything that is above 10-15% of I don't know what's the name when you go up the hill and more than 10 or 15%.
Gradient,
yes. Basically you're in the first gear and the motor is screaming at you and you're not moving. You're like at 7 kilometers per hour and you're screaming like in a Formula 1 race car.
I think above Porto, it does get quite hilly or lumpy, doesn't it? There are some big mountains.
Yeah, there's basically the coastline is up and down all the time from one bay to the next. You always have to go over mountains, but it was still relatively harmless to the really big mountains in the Pyrenees or the Alps. So that's why I also didn't want to go over Italy. I could have crossed over and left Spain towards Barcelona and follow the coastline of Italy. But then at some point I would have had to cross the Alps as well. So I tried to avoid that too. I had invitations to go to Italy, but I didn't dare to.
My guest today is Markus Andre Mayer. He is a Vespa maniac, and he is my star guest today on Adventures in a Tuk Tuk podcast. Is Italy your spiritual home, do you think?
No, actually it's more Spain.
Oh, right. Okay.
I've been living in Spain for several years in down in the Costa del Sol near Malaga. Right. And they received me very well. The Spanish and the Portuguese clubs, they received me like, you cannot imagine. They treat you like a king. You come there with a Vespa or with a tuk-tuk and they treat you like a king.
We have similar interests, I do believe.
I think so too. I actually just met a real tuk-tuk like the one that you have in your photo, like a Bajaj tuk-tuk. I met just on a ride out just 20 minutes ago.
Okay, who was that?
A friend from we have a scooter shop here in town, and he got a friend. He bought a tuk-tuk in Hamburg, and he also went home on his own wheels from Hamburg down to Munich, where I live. So about 800 kilometers tour with a Bajaj 200 tuk-tuk, the 4-stroke model.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. There are quirky nutters who want to drive them. That's all I can say.
Exactly. I totally loved his interior. It was like really like gold with really painted in it and really nicely decorated in it. Not like minimalistic like the Ape. This was like really artistic. It was like a taxi type of tuk-tuk.
How old was it?
I have no idea. I have to ask him. We talked just briefly because they went for the garage to fix another Vespa. We didn't have much time. Traveling
up through or above Porto, did it live up to expectations? You know, did you really enjoy that trip?
It was actually a lot more beautiful than I expected. It was breathtaking. Seriously, I was going to Finisterre, the so-called end of the world.
Yep.
And I sat there with a big plate of mussels and a fresh beer watching the sunset. I could have stayed there a week just staring down onto the sea. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, I saw that picture. I did. How many miles a day did you feel you had to do, or did you want to do?
The planning for me was about 150 kilometers. That would equal like 100 miles more or less a day.
Yeah, that's a good distance.
Yes, but in the end, in Portugal, I did quite often a little less because I was invited to the clubs and they showed great hospitality and the Spanish clubs as well. Even they gave me gifts like a tattoo and like in Portugal they tattooed me, and in Spain they gave me a moped they put on the roof of the tuk-tuk. I'm not sure if they wanted to slow me down or if they really wanted to make me a nice gift. It was probably a bit of both. They wanted to see if I managed, I guess.
France, how was that for you?
Oh, that was actually not very pleasant. The drivers in France are pretty reckless. They don't take a security distance. They twice I got nearly crashed by cars. So one really got directly straight at me on a down slope. I ran down a hill, but 60 kilometers an hour, like 40 miles or something an hour. And he came towards me and swerved into my lane. I nearly had to crash into the ditch to avoid a frontal crash with him. Another time, a truck nearly took me under his trailer. So it was really, really tense. The driving there was really tense. People were not friendly. In Spain and Portugal, a lot of people showed me the thumbs up and they were cheering. Some people actually gave me la ola. They ran out of bars to cheer to me when I was going through their village.
Yeah,
it was incredible. The ambience, the feeling when you come here with a tuk-tuk, little kids start to wave. Everybody's smiling. It's just very friendly usually, but in France it was nothing of that at all.
Have you spent much time in France?
I tried to get through actually when I noticed how the feeling is, I tried to get home as quick as possible. I didn't spend that much time. It was a few days only, because I also had kind of a deadline. I wanted to make it like in 3 weeks, the trip.
Yeah.
I managed in 22 days in the end. I finished my trip after 22 days. I arrived in the evening of day 21. I arrived, but then I included day 22 because I had to take a COVID-19 test before I went home. I live in a small flat in the house of my family, and I didn't want to risk them to get infected or that I bring anything home. And safety was my main priority. So I directly went into a testing center and got myself a test, and received the results actually the same day in the evening. So they were really quick. It was really fast and it was easy. They just took the test and everything was good. So, but we also took precautions throughout the whole trip. All the clubs, everybody met me with social distance and security measures. The masks were worn. There was not the usual hugs and the kisses on the cheeks as is usual in these parts of the world. We completely avoided all of that, and just took it very, very relaxed and with distance.
I believe you were wild camping most of the time?
Half, basically.
Half.
Because the clubs went as far as paying hotels for me sometimes.
Fantastic.
So they really showed all levels of hospitality. They had clubhouses where they hosted me. And when they didn't have the facilities, they sometimes bought a hotel room for me or a campsite. I also slept somewhere in the forest, in a hunter's cabin, or in some how do you say, the industrial park somewhere behind the production area. I just found a spot of nice grass and slept there, or somewhere in the forest, just plainly.
You do love wild camping, yeah?
Yeah, I do that a lot actually. During my Vespa trips before, I did it most of the time. It's just, for example, in France, I had often hotel prices up to 90 euro, 70 to 90 euro or more. And I just, that's not in my budget. I can't afford that for a trip like that. And my trips mostly take long. I had trips that take 3 or 6 months, and you cannot stay in hotels all the time. It's just not, it's out of the question.
This show is sponsored by Waterside Calligraphy. Beautiful writing brought to life on the page.
So I think it all sort of began in 2014 for you, didn't it? When you sort of went off on your 30-country epic voyage on your Vespa.
Yes.
What inspired that?
I was single at that time. I had my bank account properly filled, and then I felt that my job is not fulfilling, and I needed a timeout. I needed a break. So I quit my job, and I just said, okay, half a year I will not look for another job. I just go and travel a bit with my Vespa and have a look at every capital of Europe. And by coincidence, I also made a little trip over to Africa and traveled a few days in Morocco during this.
Where did you go in Morocco?
The northern part, Chefchaouen, Tangier, Tétouan, basically everything north of the Atlas Mountains. Okay. I travel around there. Yes.
And how was that?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The driving is a bit creative, so it's not so much about rules. It's the law of the strongest, I would say.
Yeah, survival.
Yes, survival of the strongest, exactly. But you get used to it. The only thing on the coast roads, there was a lot of wind, which was a bit unpleasant with the Vespa. But I will have the same when I go the Wild Atlantic Way or the NC 500. It will be probably windy as well. Yeah. Very windy.
Do you feel very free when you're just out on your trips?
Absolutely. It's the feeling of absolute freedom. And what happens as well, I mostly travel alone. So I have the chance to meet a lot of beautiful new people. Yeah. Because I feel that when you travel in a group or with 2, 3, 4 persons, you talk to each other. You sit in a bar, you talk to each other in the evening. You spend time with each other. You're focused on each other. But when you're alone, you're basically forced to communicate with others. Yeah, absolutely. So you enter a gas station. You have conversation with strangers. You get invited into their house. You have drinks with them. You get to know their family, their stories. They show you beautiful. In France, I also had one situation where a guy actually, I stopped in front of his house because he had some sort of how do you say, statues made from garbage there. And I was trying to take a picture. He was basically, that was like a junkyard transformed into art. And I wanted to take a picture with my tuk-tuk, and I placed it in front of the garage, and I took some pictures. And in the same moment, this elder man, he comes in with his car, and he waves to me, and I greet him, and then he steps out of his car. He walks once around my tuk-tuk and looks at the moped on the roof. That caught his interest, and he wanted to know what it is. And I explained, yeah, it's a Spanish Moto Vespa Vespino. It's a 50cc. And he was like, yeah, you get to follow me. He indicated me to follow him into his garage. So he opened his garage, and it was a huge workshop. So he basically at some point must have been the village mechanic for the motorcycles or something. And the whole gallery on top was filled with old 50cc mopeds, Mobilette, Motobecane, all sort of old classic mopeds. It was like a treasure chest in there. It was amazing.
You didn't want to leave, did you?
I actually thought if there's still space in my little Ape.
And what do you think he was going to do with all these Vespas?
I think it was just his memories. He was about 85, maybe 90 years old. I think it was his old memories. It's his collection. Maybe his children will get it one day. I hope that they appreciate it as much as he did.
Because I think 99.9% of people are good people.
Definitely. That's my experience. People are always like, well, weren't you worried or of your personal security? Have you been robbed or attacked or anything? It's like, not even threatened once. I traveled to 40 countries now on Vespa, 5 on the tuk-tuk now, and I have never been in danger by anything else than crazy drivers, animals, and the forces of nature, but never by people that wanted to do harm to me or rob me or attack me. Not once.
After your 6 months in 2014, how did you feel when you got back to Germany?
It's a bit of an emotional cold shower when you come back, because you can not really express or share what you experienced. It changes you entirely. It changes everything, how you look at the world, how you feel. It changes your life, but you cannot communicate it to others because they will not know what you talk about. They have not experienced that.
You obviously had to go back to work, and you had to sort of make some more money.
Yes.
So your life is now about channeling into the next project?
Yes, most of the time I just work as much as necessary to get my next project off the ground, and I leave again. For me, that became a lifestyle. It's not a hobby. It's not like holidays. It's a lifestyle right now.
I noticed that you spent your 42nd birthday in Mongolia.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Basically on the side of Mongolia. My last the birthday during the 80 days around the world was on a boat on the Caspian Sea, to be exact, on my way to Mongolia. I came there in the evening, in the late night of 26th of July. And by coincidence, one of the guys who had a ticket for this ferry, the ferry from Baku to Aktau, from Azerbaijan to Kazakhstan over the Caspian Sea, is very special because they don't have a ferry schedule. The boat leaves whenever there's enough trucks on the boat, and when the captain says, okay, now we can go, the trip is paid for. Then they leave, not earlier. So you have no clue. You can stay there 6 hours or 6 days. And I got very lucky because the boat I was supposed to enter was fully booked already. And even me trying to bribe them with paying triple the price for a ticket didn't work. He just shrugged it away. He wasn't interested at all because a truck pays them $2,000 while a normal motorcycle pays them $200. So it was not interesting for them at all.
They couldn't even squeeze you in, no?
No, there was no. They don't do that because the limit is not the space on the deck for the vehicles. The limit is the beds, and they cannot put more people than beds. We cannot sleep somewhere on the boat.
Yeah.
And so they didn't agree. But one of the guys that were there on a big motorcycle, he wanted to have one proper rest night in a hotel and went back to Baku because he had already waited for 5 or 6 days. You have to stay in the harbor, and there's basically just one big parking lot, and everybody stays there at 46 degrees in the boiling heat on this parking lot without shadow and wait for the boat.
Yeah.
And at some point, the guy got sick of waiting because they tell you another story every day there. So basically, nobody knows when the boat will leave, but everybody says when it will leave. They tell you just a story because they don't want to lose their face by saying they don't know. That's the part of the culture. And one guy eventually got sick, went back to Baku in the hotel, and lost his bed to me. So I could celebrate my birthday on the boat with a lot of international travelers who actually a lot of them were from Ireland, Scotland, and England. Yeah. That were taking part in the Mongol rally, like a charity event that takes part from London to Mongolia every year. And there was many of them on this boat.
And did you manage to record? How did you? Are there stories just in your head, or did you write them all down? Because I believe you're writing a book.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of writing a book. I have here a lot of notes.
That's a lot of notes. Yes.
And I'm working on it. It will be hopefully soon ready. In a few months, I will be ready with it. But it was very complicated for me to express a lot of my personal emotions and sometimes very scary and dangerous moments on the trip. It took me a while to be able to sit down and put it into words. That was a difficult thing for me.
You didn't make an audio diary, or did you record yourself on your phone? Or
every night I actually took some notes, either in audio or in some normal notes on the phone, or I had the entries of Facebook and some blog entries. I had all of it together. And every night I tried to have at least half a page of notes for every day of the 80 days. Sometimes I fell asleep on the phone with my face on the phone in the tent because I was so exhausted, but I still forced me to take some notes on every day.
Because on that around the world in 80 days, you did a lot of mileage, didn't you?
It was 250 miles a day was my average.
That's a lot on a Vespa. Yeah.
That was a lot, yeah. And it was painful at some point. After day 30 or 40, you basically don't feel your body anymore. Everybody's always wondering, didn't your butt hurt? No, it was not about my butt that hurts. Everything is hurting.
Yeah, so is that a moving time of, say, 10 or 12 hours a day?
12 to 16 is more precise, because you move like at a speed of like 35, 40 miles an hour max, and to cover the distance necessary with the brakes for refueling, with the brakes for repairs, finding doctors, getting medicine because I got sick, I got injured, I had an accident, handling my logistics, getting planes ready, ferry tickets, all of that on the go. You have to do that during the days. Like in your breaks, when you're in a gas station, you don't have a break. You basically take your phone out and you work, communicate, organize yourself.
When you got to each country, did you buy a new SIM card, or did you just use a German one?
No. On every country that I stayed more than 3 days, I got a SIM card. So by the end of the trip, I was basically feeling a bit like Jason Bourne. You had like 16 SIM cards, 2 passports, the vehicle of the paper, like 2. The only thing that was missing was a gun. I had everything with me like James Bond, basically.
And a trail of bodies. I think you didn't leave those behind, did you?
No, I didn't. I took care of that.
I take it you're a fan of the Jason Bourne films.
Yeah, a bit.
Who isn't? They're real boy films, aren't they? So yeah.
Exactly.
My guest today is Markus Andre Mayer. He is a Vespa maniac, and he is my star guest today. I think it was inspired that you did your around the world in 80 days on 3 Vespas, didn't you? Because of the shipping charges, and I especially, did you go to Australia? Because it is extremely difficult to get vehicle. Oh, you didn't do Australia?
No, for me it was just having a full circle, like a 360, on the
Right.
longest possible land road. So I wanted to rate basically like the Ian McGregor and his long way round. I took
Yes.
nearly the same route, just like a little longer than them.
Right. Okay.
And I did it solely without a TV crew and 250,000 pounds of budget.
Well done.
I just took a little different approach. Not because I would perfectly use the 250,000 if they would throw it at me.
Yeah, I know. You'd
But
still
in the
wild
end-
camp though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's not a lot of wild camping then. No.
No, that's 5-star hotel land, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I would have a blonde, a redhead, and a dark haired beauty in every hotel, sharing my company probably.
Yeah. So no one would talk to you though. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you had to go around the world, but you
Yes.
said I'm going to do it in 80 days.
Exactly. I wanted to do to set this historic mark to also be the fastest solo around the world on a Vespa. That was for me a challenge that I wanted to have accomplished, and I set myself the goal. Nobody would have cared if I would have taken 100 or 120 days. The adventure would have been the same size, would have been impressive anyway. But for me, it was important because I had 3 years of planning to achieve it. So for me personally, it was an important goal to reach. And in the end, I would have finished in 76 days, and I had to wait 3 days drinking wine in Spain.
Oh dear, that's tough. Would that be red or white?
Mostly red. Yes.
Well, they do make a very good bottle, don't they? Let's be honest.
Yes, they do.
So
Even get a special tour in a vineyard there and in a big bodega in Spain, and they showed me around in one of the biggest bodegas of Spain.
Okay, and you sampled, did you, or did you say no? I can't.
No. I was all in. I was all in. I sacrificed myself. One has to do the job, you know.
They do, absolutely. Yeah, they're well done. I'm proud of you. Do you have a favorite country so far?
Like I said, for me, my second home is Spain, definitely. The Portuguese really won my heart on this trip. I have to say, I've never in my whole life so far encountered a level of hospitality and friendliness that was shown to me, and the respect shown to me by the Portuguese Vespa clubs on this trip. It was just blowing me away. The Spanish also have an extreme level. So these two countries really won my heart on this trip. And before, I was already hooked with living in Spain. So definitely. For overlanding, I have to say I enjoyed my trip through the United States. I went twice coast to coast in the United States. And you can think of the politics, whatever you want. And when I was younger, I was confusing politics with the people and the country.
Okay.
And you should never do that. Especially, you will probably get the confirmation by your friend who did the tuk-tuk trip through Iran. Politics doesn't matter. The normal people are just lovely and show hospitality, and they're friendly and they're caring and generous wherever you go. And I had the same in Kazakhstan, and I had the same in the United States. But the landscapes, for me, I love wide open spaces. So I'm looking forward to do Australia one day because of that. Yeah. But so far, because of the deserts, the canyons, the big wide open spaces, the United States was my favorite for overlanding.
And the people that you meet along the way are even more fascinating, aren't they? They are just unbelievable, the characters that you meet.
The thing is, when you start to plunge into that sort of adventure travel and overland travel thing, and those special vehicles, you realize very quickly that there's always one guy that is more crazy than you.
That is true. That is very, very true.
That's just a normal thing.
Everything's been done, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Because I thought when I got me tuk-tuk, no bugger's has gone out there and done stupid things in a tuk-tuk. But yes, they have.
Going around the world with it on a Calasino. They did a lot of things. It's crazy what they did. Not only tuk-tuks, Vespas, skateboards, they move on all sorts of vehicles.
I know it's amazing, and the more I delve into it and research it, I'm talking to a guy in a couple of weeks' time who drove his tuk-tuk in Nottingham to India. Now he did it. He went through. I think he went through Iran. He did it in 2010.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he got to the UEA or UAE, and then put it on a boat to India because that's just the easiest way to do it. When you approach doing a talk, how do you approach giving the talk? Do you just go through? Do you pick out little points or particular moments in trips, or do you go through the whole trip?
With the last time, for example, I was in the Erwin Hümer Museum. It's like a camper museum, one of the bigger producers for campers in Germany, and they have their own travel museum. So they told me that I have 1 hour to talk about the 80 days. And 1 hour is very, very little for an adventure of this dimension. So I just picked about, what was it, like 100 pictures. Yeah. So 2 pictures a minute or something. And I just talk freely. I don't make a fixed text. I don't learn anything by heart. I just go with them through the photos and talk to them as if they sit on me on my kitchen table. Yeah. And tell them the little anecdotes of the things that happened to me. And I just take the order. So in the end, they traveled the world with me, but just the steps were a little bigger than usual. So I didn't take all the pictures. I have over 25,000 photos from my trips over the last 6 years. So it's impossible to show everything. You just take some that bring a little the feeling and adventure and show a bit of the dangers that you encountered and a little bit of the wide open spaces that I went through, like deserts, tundra in Siberia, the deserts in the United States, the heat and the deserts in Kazakhstan and stuff. I showed them a bit the difficulties that you encounter on the way and what you're confronted with, storms, animal attacks, and I just showed them what made the trip special.
Okay. I find either traveling on a Vespa or in a tuk-tuk, when you see something to take a photograph of, you can just stop, can't you? If you're in a Land Rover or on a bus, you can't stop. But the way we travel, you can just basically put the brakes on and get off the road and take a picture.
On the 80 days, I really had to force myself to stop because I was moving at a quite high pace. But with the tuk-tuk, I agree. The problem was for me that I was on a schedule to get home. I could have stopped every 5 meters to take a beautiful shot, especially in this area with Portugal, with the beautiful houses, or northern Spain, where you have just beautiful buildings. In France as well, there's little villages with the old farmhouses or the beautiful French churches they have in the villages. You could stop every 5 meters to take a picture with your tuk-tuk. It's just, you have to force yourself to get going again because you could spend a day just taking pictures.
Would you like to just roam about without any pace in life?
Yes, definitely.
You could.
Definitely. After the 80 days, I decided that my next trips will not be fast-paced anymore. I will do more continents. I have traveled 4 continents by Vespa so far. And I will definitely do the last missing continents. And I want to do South America and also New Zealand or Australia at some point. And I will take my time doing that. I will not have them travel there in a hurry. Because I encountered in 2014, I was not on a schedule. I was moving freely at my pace. I could stay 1 or 2 nights or 4 nights in a place. And it was just so much more pleasure than when you go on. The 80 days was not a travel. The 80 days was a challenge.
Border control. What's your worst experience of being at a border?
I didn't have really bad experiences. I had one very long experience in Kazakhstan. Upon entering Kazakhstan, we stayed there about 7-8 hours. They got the dogs out to control every little bit of our underwear. Everything had to be unpacked. Every bike had to be stripped down to the bones. Everything was controlled. That was very exhausting because we arrived there at 6 o'clock in the morning and I was leaving very, very late in the morning. And then I had to find still a hotel, and till I got to bed, it was actually, I was really exhausted. But I had no really bad experience. I didn't have to bribe anybody ever. I didn't really get in trouble. funnily, on this trip now back home, I crossed the border to Switzerland. I would say half legal. There was a border post on the mountaintop of a pass from France, and it said, "Don't cross border." Well, and I crossed, and I was in Switzerland without a passport control or without actually being allowed to be there, because I would have had to go to quarantine. So I decided
you would have had to quarantine for 14 days, would you?
Yes, and I decided to just race through the night to get out on the other side before they notice.
It would have put an extra what? So it wouldn't have been 22 days. It would have been more like 36, wouldn't it?
Exactly, and it would have been very expensive days, because a hotel in Switzerland is not exactly a cheap place to stay. So I decided to make a run of 365 kilometers, so like nearly 250 miles in one day with the 50cc tuk-tuk to get out again in the night.
And you live to tell the story. Well done.
Yes.
And of course they must have thought in Kazakhstan, they must have thought you were a drug dealer. That's basically what they were trying to
that is my look. That's just a normal thing.
That's right. It seems to me if you were to come out of your house now and get on the Vespa, you would sort of head west, wouldn't you, down France, Spain, Portugal. That would be sort of your spiritual way down, wouldn't it?
Actually, I planned a trip for next year, maybe on a 50cc Vespa. I would like to do the 4 seas: the Northern Sea, the Eastern Sea, like on the north of Germany, then Riga, Latvia, like Letland, Lithuania, this area, and then going down to the Black Sea. Yeah. On the Bulgaria and Romania, this area, and coming over to the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean. And I wanted to do that on a 50cc, so like 6,500 kilometers, but also going low paced, not too hectic, enjoy it, maybe even doing it in gentleman style with a suit and tie, as they traveled in the 60s, not like adventure outfit and the whole body armor and gear, just traveling in style. That would be something I would look forward to.
I spoke to a chap the other day called Neil Lawson, who cycled in Mongolia 2 or 3 years ago, but he did it in tweed. Like they did.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I talk about. Exactly. Yeah. I love it.
Because his son said, "Dad, you dress in lycra and you ride a bicycle, and you're 50 and you look ridiculous." So he said, "Okay, I'll go to Mongolia and I'll cycle in tweed." And that's even more ridiculous, but it's brilliant.
I love it. I totally love the idea.
So La Vida Vespa in English to the Vespa life, I believe. Is that correct? Is that how you see it?
For me, it's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby anymore.
You go out and you just want to live a free, wholesome life. Is that correct?
Exactly. So I move on the Vespa, but it's not just a matter of transportation for me. For me, it's the Vespa world is a community that is like my chosen family. Yeah. And I noticed that especially now with the clubs, how they treat me. When I see my friends from all over the world once in a year, in the European Vespa Days or the World Vespa Days, I can meet the club presidents from all several countries that I've visited so far. They come together in one big event, and it's just like a family party, like Christmas. It has the same importance to me like Christmas. That is like also I one of my statements is also ride, eat, sleep, repeat. Yes. So for me, it's a continuous process. I will move as long as my body allows. I will move on 2 wheels or 3 wheels. I will explore. I will keep learning. Like I said, I had 9 months of studies now. The last 9 months were full of studies. I just took this time out to do a little reset. And the rest is also, for me, money is not very important. Money is just a vehicle to make my dreams come true. And I only work as much as necessary to fulfill my dreams. For me, money doesn't do anything for me.
You measure life as?
I measure life in the contacts and the people that I touch on the way.
You're listening to stories of discovery and adventure from Adventures in a Tuk Tuk.
It's great to have a local with you because
Yeah.
They're the key to sort of unlocking the place sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because you can go to a restaurant as a tourist and you go as a local. It's two completely different things.
You get different menus.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Mostly.
Yes, the tourist menu and the local menu.
Yeah, it
yes.
was when I went into the bar to get my tuk-tuk, to buy the tuk-tuk. The guy said he told me he wants to sell it for $100. And we went there, and he was standing in the bar, a little drunk, and my friend, the Portuguese friend of mine, goes to him and says, "Oh, so you want to sell your tuk-tuk still?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I want to. What do you think? How much would you ask?" Like, about 100, he said. "You look over there is my German friend. He wants to buy it. Okay, tell him 200.
Yeah, if you'd been Portuguese, you'd have got it for 100, wouldn't you?
It was still a bargain, so I
Yeah.
agreed without hesitation. But it was funny, actually.
Right. Okay. How many Vespas do you have?
I have 9 Vespas, 2 tuk-tuks, and my Mercedes. I'm also actually at the moment considering a very small car, like a Fiat Bambino, a 126 Bambino. So I can put a little trailer behind the Bambino, put my Ape and the Vespa, and go on a trip.
I think that sounds like a marvelous plan. You could just live out of that, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And how did you navigate? Was that with paper maps, or did you have navigation on your phone?
I had a combination of Google Maps, which basically Susie Google, how I call her always. Susie Google screwed with me a lot of times. I ended up in places I never wanted to go a lot of times. But additionally, I also, on some of the countries that I stayed longer on the borders, I bought classic paper maps.
Okay. But sometimes the places you didn't intend to go are fantastic places.
Sometimes, yes, but also on this trip, I had a few, let's say, farm roads uphill of a mountain that are just used for woodworkers and trucks and the big farm trucks. They were not suitable for little Anita. So I ended up in places I really didn't want to end up.
Okay.
I nearly trashed her on several occasions. She nearly flipped over, or I drowned her nearly in a lake once.
Right. Oh, Jesus. But obviously, you've lived to fight another day, haven't you? So it's
exactly.
But these are the things you remember.
That's the memories you make, of course.
Yeah, it's not.
If there's no complications there, you don't have a story to tell. Going from one hotel to the next is boring.
It is. Weather? How was that for you? Any bad weather?
Till Bilbao or till Santander, basically, till the north of Spain, I had a lot of heat and perfect weather most of the time. And then weather changed a lot. And in the area of Bilbao and San Sebastian, entering France, I had severe storms. There was this giant waves coming in that the surfers adore so much, and the people stare on the beach walks. But it's not fun with a tuk-tuk because you're basically thrown left and right and left, and you're fighting to stay on the road.
Yeah, they don't take wind very well at all, do they?
No, they don't. And with the additional moped on the roof, it was like a sail.
Yes, and especially a headwind. They really hate headwinds. Oh my God!
From a sudden, I was not going at 47 kilometers per hour. I was at 20. And then you don't see it, but there must be some wind, or no, it's going maybe upwards, or the moon is on the wrong position at the moment. Everything influenced them.
I know what you're saying. Yes. So next year, so really you'll be working now for the next 6 months, and then when the weather improves, it's off on the 50cc Vespa for the 4
There will be some
Germany.
more. Mostly, I still have one Vespa in Moscow that I had to recover. If everything works out and I'm allowed to enter Russia next year because of COVID, I will pick up first my Vespa from Moscow.
Tell me about how do you get a Vespa how did you acquire a Vespa in Moscow then? There must be a story there.
In the 80 days, I did it, like you mentioned before, on 3 Vespas to avoid the costs for transportation, the Vespas from continent to continent. So to save costs on air freight, I left the Vespa in Vladivostok and put it on a truck back to Moscow, where some friends from Vespa Club Moscow are taking care of it at the moment.
Right, okay.
So they host my Vespa and I have to buy it back with some bottles of vodka, I guess.
So it would be a nice little trip to drive
Yeah.
it back from Moscow, wouldn't it?
Actually, it's not that nice. Riding in Russia is extremely dangerous and difficult.
Okay.
I will probably get the Vespa in a truck to St. Petersburg and just enter ferry and leave, because I had 8,000 kilometers of Russia, and I'm very happy that I survived that, but I'm not keen on trying more of that. Not
so
if I don't have a Land Rover around me.
I think you could be buying a Land Rover soon. I'm getting that vibe.
Yeah, there is something in the air that might be
There
possible.
Would you swap? Would you swap the your Mercedes for a Land Rover?
I would perfectly do
would.
that. Like a nice long 110 Land Rover, the Defender, with a nice roof tent. I would definitely give up my Mercedes for that.
Africa. Any plans to go to Africa?
Not so much. Too many diseases, and civil wars and riots and all sorts of things going on there that is not so attractive to me. I would prefer New Zealand and South America. Yeah. Well, in South America, personal security is also an issue, obviously.
Yes.
But since I'm fluent in Spanish, it's a lot easier for me to understand when I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Than in somewhere in Africa.
Absolutely. Yes. Plans for your little Ape Tuk Tuk then? Where are you going on? It's Matilda, isn't it?
Anita.
Anita, sorry. And so where's Anita going next?
Anita, she will first of all get a little bit of day spa time. So I will take care of a few smaller flaws she got. Maybe she got a bit of a motor treatment to make a complete overhaul. Anita has a sister here. I have 2 of those tuk-tuks.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I might take a friend, and we will maybe go to North Cape or to Iceland.
Thank you very much for talking to me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
likewise.
It's been great meeting you. You're
a pleasure.
You're nuttier than me. It's fantastic.
You said that.
Cheers.
Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Markus for his stories of discovery and adventure. He is an inspiration to us all. Let's hope this year's adventure, the Gentleman's Giro for Kids with Cancer, can go ahead in April. It's 240 days around Europe on a 50cc Vespa, helping raise thousands of pounds for cancer charities. We will be following him all the way with regular weekly updates. Thank you for listening. All my shows are on iTunes, Spotify and adventuresinATukTuk.com. If you have a story of discovery and adventure, please get in touch and follow the tuk-tuk at outlook.com. This has been a CMP production. Until next time, goodbye.